Hello everyone, welcome back to Extract the Fact. I'm your host, Adam Israelovitz. So today we're going to be profiling a new topic, sort of a merger between politics and the environment, and that is the Paris Climate Accords. So although this happened a little bit a while back now, about a year or so, this is still a very prevalent issue. The environment and politics, like yesterday, the economy and politics, they're always intersecting. And this is a real primary example of environment and politics really meshing. So we see the forces of American protectionism, American isolationism, as opposed to globalism, that are typically political ideals that are now actually playing out in the environmental sector. So you see this kind of internationalism and contrasting against American nationalism. So it's a really interesting point, and we're going to examine it today. So our core question today is, should the U.S. have dropped out of the Paris Climate Accords? So it's important today we're not actually focusing on climate change itself. I'm not going to be arguing whether or not climate change is real or global warming is real or if climate change is caused by humans. What I will be arguing is the specific decision, the specific political decision by the United States. Should we have stayed in the accord or should we have dropped out of the accord? So this, again, is kind of a Trumpian issue. Some Republicans did want to stay in the Paris Climate Accord. So, again, it's more of a Trump really pushed for the U.S. to withdraw from the climate accord. And again, it's mainly Republicans support the withdrawal while Democrats are against it. But again, there's kind of a Trumpian nuance to it that is unique to explore. So first I'll be arguing that yes, the U.S. made the right decision withdrawing from the accord, and then I'll transfer to the no side. But first, I'll state the arguments for yes, the U.S. did make the right decision withdrawing from the accord. So it's first, we must understand this is a classic Trump play. This is American isolationism at its heart, and Trump kind of ran on this populist isolationist campaign. And it's the whole premise of the argument that we should withdraw from the accord is benefiting the American worker. Trump said in his speech at the Rose Garden when he nullified the Paris Climate Accord, he said, Pittsburgh over Paris. So he's here and as the President of the United States to represent the people of Pittsburgh, not the people of Paris. So again, a very Americanized, patriotic ideal. And we can see kind of the core economic argument by this on the Huffington Post, and it reads, India would get billions of dollars for meeting its commitment under the 2015 Paris Agreement, and along with China, would double its coal-fired power plants in the years to come, getting a financial advantage over the U.S. So that is the core premise. When Trump is referring to Paris, he's referring to the international community that voted in the Paris Climate Accord, as opposed to the people of Pittsburgh, usually a coal mining area and steel producing area. So again, clearly India and China, from this point of view, are getting the easier end of the bargain in terms of the accord, as India, just by accepting, will get billions of dollars in foreign aid, which to Trump and his supporters seem unfair. Now, another site, byron.house.gov, reads, let me just pull it up for a second. It reads that the NERA Consulting found that meeting the requirements outlined for the U.S. in the deal would cost our economy nearly $3 trillion over the next several decades. Just as bad, the deal would result in the loss of over 6 million industrial sector jobs, including 3.1 million manufacturing jobs. Now, it's important as a disclaimer when I say this, these facts are being debated and they're constantly being contrasted from one group to the other. But it is still an important finding that obviously 3 trillion is a huge number for our economy, and then a lot of industrial jobs will be lost, 6 million in this estimate. And it's important because when industrial jobs are lost, it is not just the industry sector that can then trickle down, and then it can seep around to other industries and other places in the U.S. economy, destabilizing our economy even further. So the core against the Paris Accord is really centered around the economy over our standing in the world and over the environment. Another facet of the argument is that the Paris Climate Accord, similar to other UN resolutions, is based on accountability, not actual enforcement. So the Paris Climate Accord is actually not a practical deal or a practical accord, those would say, because there is no legal authority to enforce it in all these countries. And many people believe that all these countries that are signing these agreements won't really follow through with them, so the deal won't be strong to begin with. Now, if other countries are not following the deal, that means the United States will have to increase their end of the bargain to kind of balance out the playing field. So again, many people see this as unfair because it's a flimsy deal, kind of like what we were talking about with the North Korean denuclearization in a way, how there is no, you can't verify this. This is based on solely the accountability of the countries that have signed the accord. So now I'll transition a little bit, saying no, the U.S. should have maintained their position when we signed the accord, and we should have stayed in the Paris Climate Accords. So I like this quote from TechCrunch. I think it gives a nice summary of one of the points in the argument here. And it says, quote, if ending our participation in the Paris Accord slows the U.S. Advanced energy market, our American companies will be at a huge competitive disadvantage globally. They won't have a robust local market to build on. Before long, we'll find ourselves buying energy technology from other countries, just as other countries now soak up digital technology products from us. So again, TechCrunch kind of flipping the economy argument on its head, saying if we opt out of this, this is again kind of where we see politics intersecting, so protectionism and isolationism versus free trade. But we're kind of seeing, if we reject ourselves from this global environmental and economic agreement, then slowly over time we'll become isolated, and then trade will happen without us, and then the U.S. will become even more isolated, and we'll lose our standing as an economic superpower. Now, NPR, again, reiterates this statement, saying if the U.S. withdrawal leads to more severe climate change, that would greatly harm the U.S. economy. So if the U.S. is seen as a big superpower that is withdrawing, and then there's climate ramifications, that will directly hurt the U.S. economy. Now, from more of an ideological standpoint rather than the economy, there's a good point in here that says China now takes over as the most prominent member of the Paris Climate Accord. Now, you would think in common perception that China is not some environmental haven, as some of its cities are known for being covered in smog and people have to wear masks. But now, because the U.S. is withdrawn, China is now seen as that primary unifier and that primary leader. And this problem is now twofold for the U.S. One, China is now taking another step towards its emergence as a superpower, and in two levels. So one, on the economic level, so we see China now unifying all these nations together around one core environmental cause, kind of people looking towards the east instead of the west, and also on a political standpoint, because China is diplomatically unifying all these nations. Even more than economically, we see China unifying together all these different nations. In addition, from the U.S. perspective, what kind of message does it send to the world? How? In the Paris Climate Accord, there are only two countries before the U.S. that did not sign the agreement, and that was Syria, who's in the middle of a civil war, and Venezuela, which is ran by a socialist dictatorship in Nicolas Maduro. Those are the two countries that we are now associated with. Now, this is not a policy argument, but those who would say this is not a group in any stretch, regardless of the policy that you want to be in, as the only country known as a democratic superpower that you're allied with these two nations that are not in the agreement. That does not send a powerful message. Now, this is really interesting to me as well. This is, even corporate America kind of supports the keeping of the Paris Climate Accord. That is a primary argument for those who support this side. And they say, effective framework for addressing the risk of climate change. And the United States is well positioned to complete under the terms of the deal. So ExxonMobil is saying the Paris Climate Accord is in fact an effective framework. And you would think the oil tycoons and these large-scale companies would actually oppose it because it's the argument from the other side is it's protecting American workers. But here actually they're saying it is a stable structure that they could follow. Finally, many people see it as a political play. So many proponents of this argument will say, Trump is merely just playing to his base here. His base are the workers. The workers will like this because it's seen as protecting their interests and becoming America first, kind of Trump's primary campaign slogan. And it's directly playing towards their interests, maybe not towards America at large. So I think that's a pretty good briefing. I would like, this is another important topic, just because it is not, obviously it has Paris in its name, it's not American centric, but I do think it's an important, it is an important issue to cover. And like I said, environment and politics are a common thread. Really anything in politics is a common thread, but we've covered over the last 2 days the economy in politics and now the environment in politics. So those are, again, 2 primary examples of where those kind of mesh in Washington. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Comment below your thoughts, and thanks.